Hello and welcome to the Baseball Wisconsin podcast. I am your host, Tim Gotzler. All right, so we are in the second inning here of Game 7 with our second episode here, and we are going to visit with the 2024 Division II state champs at Madison Edgewood in Rich Newton. Now, listening to Coach Newt, one of the staples of Edgewood athletics, he's an alumni, talks us through, his program, through the journey of a season, some of the challenges that they face with facilities and planning and, his role as a Phi Ed teacher. And, I just think there's something special about practice planning inside. You have limitations. You're trying to optimize space. I just had a great conversation with him about, practice planning, their program, but one of my favorite parts of the episode is when he talks about leadership and pouring into him, and he's the first to admit that he's always learning and always finding ways to challenge his guys. And, there's drills everywhere. As every one of you that's listening knows, obviously you're taking in this content because you're a learner and you can go so many places to find drills. But, what Rich talks about is just what makes the unit, what makes the group so strong, talks about their journey through sectionals and through state, just gives it so many nuggets. Looking at that 2024 state championship team. So without further ado, head coach at Edgewood High School, Rich Newton. Hey, Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing very good. Very good.
Outstanding. Glad we could make this work. We had some technical difficulties for the millions of listeners that are going to tune into this when they hear it. But Coach Newt, great to have you. And, get us started. Tell us about your journey in baseball. Where does that love come from? Where did you get started?
Well, I'm a Madison kid. I grew up here in Madison, Wisconsin. Spent my entire childhood here. So just picking up baseball around the neighborhood, and doing some little league in the area. That was always a big deal for me. Ended up going to Edgewood High School, so I'm at my alma mater. They decided to hire me back, even though they saw me as a student and as an athlete. But I really loved it. I was actually a three-sport kid growing up, football, basketball, baseball. I was whatever I could play. That was the most important season to me, and that's how I carried myself throughout. And I actually kind of do that still as a coach. I respect other sports, I think, a little more based on that information. But so I made it through high school at Edgewood, playing those three. Then went on to go to UW Whitewater. I intended to play football and baseball when I intended there. Redshirted my freshman year in both. And then come my second year, or my freshman year of eligibility, I was starting to play some football, starting to get some playing time. And Coach Miller gave me an ultimatum of baseball. He's like, you choose football or baseball. It's your choice. And at the time, I was like, well, I'm kind of playing a little bit in football already as a freshman. I think I'll play this out and maybe hopefully call his bluff a little bit in the winter and then the next spring. But Coach Miller held to his card, so ended up just being a football player throughout my time at Whitewater, and loved my time there. And I think it developed a lot of key skills and key informational team stuff that I really carry through to this day in baseball. But that was kind of where I started and where I got to. And once I graduated there in '97, I got started. I started coaching right away. Moved to Charleston, South Carolina for 1 year. My then to be wife and I decided to give it a try down there, and I was very fortunate. Got a high school job and a head coaching job. The name of the school is Academic Magnet High School, so that tells you what kind of school it was, and they held true to that. It was very often I wouldn't have a full practice because they had to study. They had to do their studies. But it was a good start for me. And from there, a couple years in Kenosha, 1 year at Orfordville Parkview. And like I said, Edgewood decided to give me another chance back here at home in Madison. And I've been here teaching for about 24 years and being the head baseball coach at Edgewood for 22 years now. So.
Appreciate that. Well, before we get into your coaching career, I had to go back to this playing career. We're in the middle, NFL playoffs right now. College football playoff is going to be, about a week from now. And I got to hear about you as a football player. All right. So, Whitewater, give me a position. What kind of player were you on the old gridiron?
I was wide receiver. Believe it or not, you couldn't tell by how thick I am nowadays, but I used to be able to run a little bit. Really good hands. I was more a possession receiver. I wasn't going to burn by you, but I could find openings, and when the ball's in my vicinity, I caught it. And so I enjoyed it. Football at Whitewater was a tremendous time for me, and I had some good years. I had a couple all conference years in there. At the time, before I always say my years kind of set the foundation for them really taking off, because I think a couple of years after I graduated is when they started going to the national title game every single year. But I had a good career, and one year led the team in receptions and did some good things that way. But I was just that hard work, blue collar type kid. I mean, I grinded for everything I had. I was a little dirty at times, but I played hard. I really got after it. So.
So, was it your time at Whitewater when you got that itch to get in the classroom, do the teacher coach route? Like, where does that come from for you?
For me, I'll be honest with you. I think that developed well before I even got to high school. I mean, just being around coaches, and like I said, I was a kid that didn't have a lot growing up, so I had coaches that really took care of me and really tried to make it possible for me to do and be a part of programs. And from that point forward, I just knew that I wanted to be around sports. I knew I loved sports. That was a no brainer for me. But I knew that that wasn't going to last forever, and like I said, appreciated some of the coaches I had growing up that really gave me everything they had, gave me an opportunity, and I always wanted to kind of give back that way and to help other kids, other kids that were in my situation growing up. I wanted to be a part of that because I know it does make a difference, made a difference in my life as well as my time at Edgewood. There are people that helped, make it possible for me to do that, and I'm forever grateful. And I just want to be able to do that kind of. I want to be that type of coach and teacher to my athletes and students now.
Well, that's a great segue. It gets you thinking about all the coaches you had along the journey. Like if you had to pick out a couple guys, a couple coaches that you had, mentors, coworkers, that you wanted to spend time around. They taught you lessons. There's things you stole from their programs. So when you kind of think about those coaching influences on you, who comes to mind?
My first one, Bill Harrington, was my youth coach growing up. When I went to parochial school in Madison, St. James, and yeah, he was my coach, fifth grade through eighth grade. He was a, I mean, we were in a big school, so you played sports. He was your coach, and like I said, he went above and beyond to make it possible for me to get to practices, to get me home after practices. Really set the tone for the type of work ethic that I have today and that I still continue to try to have other athletes and players get to. That was my first one, and then my high school coach. He was my athletic director and basketball coach at Edgewood, Chris Wetler. He was a big part of helping me continue that growth, continue that dedication to sport that I really grew to love and respect, and made a big difference in me wanting to then continue it on at the college level. So
Well, that's incredible. And again, you gotta get a full-time job to coach. In Wisconsin, right? We're not in other
no.
states, but this is a full-time profession. So you decide to enter the classroom, stay around young people. So maybe talk about your role as an educator and what you do, what your day looks like, what subjects you teach, but also just how you can use that in your coaching role.
Yeah. Well, I've been pretty much a high school teacher my entire career in teaching. I love that level. Again, that's a really, that's that transformational spot where they're really, really, truly deciding what they're going to be and what they're going to become, and what they're going to make, what choices they're going to make college wise. So I really like that aspect of it. And I teach Phi Ed, so I joke around with people all the time. I say I play games all day. I love the competitive nature. I love teaching kids how to be competitive, how to utilize that to be better individuals in whatever activity they're doing. You could take your competitive edge into anything. And if you're always trying to strive to be the very best, I don't think there's any, better feeling to know that you're trying to accomplish something maybe that nobody else can do. And that's a challenge I put to all my athletes. And for me, I love that relationship uh, uh, pattern that we can develop. A lot of times I have athletes, but a lot of times I have non-athletes, and I get them to love and respect athletics because it's not all about the physical skill. It's about what you put into it, the dedication, the heart, the will, the desire that go a long way. So that's why I love it. And like I said, I enjoy going to work every day. I'm one of those few, I guess, that can say I love it. I mean, I wake up every morning excited for the opportunity. I'm getting older, so I can't compete with them as much as I used to. I still get after it a little bit, but I love just being able to make a difference and be there for those kids and challenge them in those types of ways.
Well, I want to lean in a little bit more there. I'm a social studies teacher, right? So I feel like every coach is a Phi Ed or social studies guy. But I often look at the role of the Phi Ed teacher in today's society has changed a little bit, and I think it might. You talk about that competitive nature, and if you hear coaches talk at any level or business leaders talk at any level, the lack of the decrease in competitiveness as a generation. It takes adults, it takes coaches, it takes teachers, and the physical health and the mental health of young people. Do you feel like your role as a teacher has evolved over time?
Well, yeah, I think coaching, all of it has evolved. I mean, you're doing a little more. You're making you have a greater understanding of what it takes and what they need to do to become whatever it is they want to become. And so, yeah, I think it goes a long way with developing kids and making them understand the importance or important aspects of life. And I like the aspect of the coach teacher because you like I said, you're taking maybe a fewer number at times, but you're trying to transform them into something and try to help them find that and to be that informational resource. I think is a big deal, and it's something I really appreciate and try to be better every year. Same thing, same reason I go to clinics. I read a lot of books about Phi Ed and things like that too, because I want to be the best version of myself too, and I want to provide every kid a better opportunity every time I meet them. So.
Yeah, and I'm certified 612, and early in my career I did seventh grade, and I couldn't agree with you more. Something about the high school, the whole environment is different. It's one of those rite of passages for all. We all went through it.
Hmm.
And now you watch them go through it. You mentor them through it. You coach them. You teach them, and that's outstanding. Well, it brings us back into your baseball program, right? So, like, give us that flyover 30,000 foot view of your program. How many kids come out? How many teams do you carry? What does baseball inside the Edgewood community look like? Obviously, within this city of Madison, there's a lot going on in the
Hmm.
surrounding areas, but just kind of zoom in on your program for us.
Well, like I said, my 22nd, 23rd year, COVID year in there, we've actually, uh, I would say, developed a program that's pretty consistent and pretty hardworking. Right now, we have about 30, 35, 36 kids in our program. So the numbers have gone down, but our school in general has adopted more sports that happen in the spring. The big one is lacrosse, just started up recently for us. And, we lost some kids, but, we get some dedicated kids. We get some kids that really want to pursue being a very good baseball player, play at the next level, and we really spend time developing. We have two levels, a JV and a varsity, so we don't offer a freshman level. A lot of our freshman athletes end up competing at the JV level, which is good and bad depending on the athlete and depending on the year. But for us, it's worked really well because they're challenged. They got to compete at a higher level right away, and they get to experience that, and I think that helps them by the time they get up to the varsity level. They're a little more battle tested and maybe a little more ready because they've had to challenge themselves maybe a little faster than the average athlete at other schools. But again, ours, we always consider our group a nice close knit team, or we call it our family, where we really just we're there for each other. We're all friendly and get along, and the camaraderie is at all time high at all times, and we just really enjoy each other's company, and it's kind of a nice close knit community.
Appreciate that. So now, like, once the season gets started, obviously, it's January 14th. We're recording this. You're starting to make preparations for the season. 60 something days out from pitchers and catchers. How do you go about those first few weeks? If it's pitchers and catchers week, and then your tryout process. Like you said, I talked to some coaches and they got 120 kids coming out for tryouts. They got massive field houses and they
Yeah.
carry two freshman teams, and I talk to coaches that have 16 kids, coming out for baseball. So everybody's got unique things going on. So just like give us the first couple weeks of how you guys structure things.
Yeah, well, obviously, pitcher catcher is the one we can all start and kind of get after a little bit. Obviously, we'll have open gyms. We started our open gyms in February, so that'll be coming around the corner here. But yeah, pitcher catcher is when we first can get after it a little bit. And like I said, only having 35, 36 athletes, we really are challenged to really see who can pitch. So we all of our guys really get after it. We put every player through kind of a pitching format of seeing what they can and can't do and working with things that can help them get ready for the upcoming season. But at the same time, not trying to overwork anybody, just like any other program. And then tryouts, we have open tryouts. I mean, I'm one that's always preached that I'll take the best 17 or 18 kids that I think can compete at the varsity level. And if you're in the younger level, then you're going to be playing JV. So we really offer everybody the opportunity to showcase what they have, and tryouts are very competitive. That's what I think helps us along the way too, is everybody's competing, and I have kids that are returners know that kids behind them want it as bad as they do and are going to come out there and give it their very best. So our tryouts are very competitive. We'll do those for about 3 or 4 days, and then it's time to start getting ready for the season and fine tuning what we need to do, because knowing our first game is probably a week away at that point. So yeah.
Um, so you talk about a competitive tryout, and I talk to coaches all the time about just structure. I'd love to know a little bit more. Like, do you guys all operate as one big group? Do you do it more of like a showcase style? Do you try to inter squad? Do you just run it as a practice and see who kind of fits in and who doesn't? Like, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, well, most times for us, just because we don't have a great outdoor facility, we actually don't have an outdoor facility. We rent when we have games. That's about it. So most of our stuff's indoor. So we do a lot of all indoor stuff. And what we usually will do is we'll have our freshmen, sophomores practice at an earlier slot. Junior, seniors come in at a later slot, and yeah, we're going through all the same type of drills, same type of expectations. Obviously with the freshmen and sophomores, maybe a little more instructional of maybe some of the things that we want to help them develop in and learn early on. But yeah, we're really just evaluating, putting through a lot of hitting drills, take a lot of swings. We only have one small gym. It's more of a single style gym. About 5 or 6 row bleachers on one end, or one side. The other side's a wall, so we don't have a lot of space. But I've learned over the years to manufacture as much repetition in certain things as I can. I mean, we've got a good about 10 station hitting, set of groups that really work on a lot of things that I want to see. And I've got a little perch where I can really see, and I can see everything all at once. So it's really good that way. And then defensively, obviously, we're going through, the throwing mechanics and all your basic fundamental things that you want to see that they can do and not do. And like I said, the junior senior one gets very competitive, and they know they're already fighting for playing time on game one, that first tryout practice. So they not only are trying to make the team, which for us, obviously, we're not probably going to make many cuts, if any, but they're trying to see who's going to be in that starting lineup starting day one. So it's full go right off the bat. So I really love it.
Well, and as you're saying that, what I can picture is 20 plus years as a phy ed teacher in that gym every day,
Mm-hmm.
scheming, looking around and thinking, man, how can I inch out every space?
Yeah,
You got a football, background as well. When, a football practice is a well-oiled
correct.
machine.
Yep.
Number three, you're not getting outside.
No.
So like all the hey, we're gonna, take BP, we're gonna do a full in and out. It's like you must just practice plan with that gym in your head all the time. So give us some of your best like indoor hacks.
Well, like you said, I'm always thinking, and like even today, I was in the gym and I'm pacing out. So if I wanted to start, because I went to the national convention, and obviously I got a few new drills in mind, and I got a new tool I'm going to try to use as one of my hitting instructional type things. So I'm already walking off where I'm going to put it, how many steps I need, how does that fit in according to other drills. But yeah, I've got it set now that we've got probably 10 stations probably in a normal sized gym that all go on at once, all about swings, all about development, that all kind of coordinate together. And again, a lot of it's I've done now for a while, so the players know it. Like the junior seniors, I could probably say, hey, here's a bucket. You guys have the gym. You guys set it up. And every time they say they want to do something different, but they end up setting up all the drills that we usually do anyway. So they have a feel for what we do, but it all works. Like I said, it's a lot of maximizing a lot of swings, a lot of muscle memory development, the opportunity for coaches to step in. I'll have 3 or 4 assistants, all positioned at certain spots that probably can work 2 drills at once, where they can help teach kids. But yeah, it's a lot of management, like you said. I've always been big on making sure kids are busy the entire time. I don't have a lot of standing. There's not a lot of watching. I want a lot of action, and I've been able to coordinate that pretty well over the years. So
That's a true art as well. I think oftentimes you hear coaches in the South talk about coaches in the North, and like they are the masters at eking out every second or every minute or every piece of a brick wall in your gym.
yep.
Uh, all right. So eventually, teams are made. Again, you make cuts or knots or splits, however you do it. Kind of take us inside your varsity team. Again, you got to get ready for games. And when games start, if it rains or not, obviously it's stuff that we're all dealing with. But was there certain things that you do within your varsity team that you think are unique to you guys, or maybe a little bit of your secret sauce that you do? It could be team building stuff. What
Yeah. Well,
what
one.
are you willing to give out here?
Yeah, exactly. Keep some secrets close to heart, but yeah, no. For us, I like just our team's willingness and want to be together. Our camaraderie is above, second to none. I'd challenge it with any other program. They really just love being around each other. Our when we do get outdoors and we do get a facility to practice outside, our practices will start at 4:30. Well, guys start showing up at 4 just because they want to hang out with each other and want to talk and want to, play those stupid little flip games and stuff like that are beneficial, but it's more about just being around your teammates. They love each other, and that's a big part of making us successful, because everybody wants to play for each other. When you got everybody that enjoys one another, they don't care who gets the success. Everybody wants to be the guy, but at the same time, they care as much about the team doing well and that guy getting recognition than they do themselves sometimes. So that's one thing I really think is unique to us, that maybe not every program is able to see. I think another area that we spend time on, and again, this is something we can also do early on when we don't have gym space. We do a lot of classroom stuff, where we talk a lot about all the ins and outs of baseball. We just talk baseball. I call it spitting baseball. We're just talking. We're just communicating about things. It could be, the rules, expectations, those types of things. But a lot of times it's just about situations and what would we do that in this at this time of the game, or in this situation, and just having them talk it out themselves is a big deal. And in a whole leadership mindset, we do a lot of leadership work. So those are kind of some major things that we really focus in on that I think make us maybe a little more unique than maybe some other programs.
Well, when I hear that thing, I continue to think, okay, 4:30 practice, right? In today's era, kid gets there even early. He's on his phone. He sits in his car. He's on his phone.
Yep.
But then you see a group of kids getting out early, you know, lack of a better term, playing a little grab ass. I
Yeah.
guess that's maybe not the appropriate thing to say, but they're being guys. They're
Yes. Yep.
playing two ball or giving each other a hard time, just kind of that dugout environment. And
Correct.
like I think it's more rare than you think. I think you're hitting it right on the head, and there's something you guys are doing either as a school, entire of all of athletics or inside your program that like, and when you're around that as a coach, it's a great feeling.
Hmm.
You feel like this is what it's supposed to feel like. This is what we fell in love with as guys
Yes.
on the baseball team, was that camaraderie. And to watch it from a coach perspective has got to just give you nothing but smiles on your face. And so I think it's a testament to you and how you guys cultivate that classroom time, that leadership. I mean, so easy you could just bypass that, say, hey, let's get the drills,
Hmm.
but you
Yeah.
choose to invest that time.
Yeah.
So is that a more recent development, or is that something you've done for your whole career?
Well, it's something I've always made a big deal. I mean, I haven't always had them, showing up early and that type. So that's kind of come along in that last 10 or so years. But I've always been a big team guy. I always knew that was the special sauce, as you said before, to a successful season. You can have a very good team, but without them wanting and working together and caring about each other, I really don't think winning a championship is something that they would have been able to accomplish. I think it really is a difference maker, and again, it's just something I've always made a big deal. I think, like I said, I think a lot of that comes from my football background because it was really a big deal then. Going to through high school and then Whitewater. I still talk to a lot of my fellow teammates today, just about being around each other and loving just and being together. Being in a locker room, talking, hanging out. Those were the bigger deals, and I want my guys to experience that. And I think, luckily, they are starting to get that, and I think they really do enjoy one another. So,
Well, and they get to spend the last day together in a uniform at Appleton in a dog pile. So, I can't wait to talk more about the 2024 season. And, every story has got such an incredible story. And like, I'm a sucker for like a docu-series, like a 30 for 30 or whatever's on TV. And I always wish they made them for like, championship seasons. But, for you being there 20 plus years, having a
mhm.
ton of success prior to that, like before you even arrive in Appleton or as you get ready for postseason, like what lessons did you learn along the way in preparation to get this 2024 team ready?
It's just a lot of it's just don't take anything for granted. You gotta earn everything that you get. I mean, you. Uh, Learn that obviously as a player. You got if you want to make a starting lineup, you want to make a team, you got to grind. Same thing with making it to state. I mean, it's not something that's everybody gets to experience. I learned that early on. I was very fortunate. I mean, my second year coaching at Edgewood, we were able to go to state, and we ended up winning it somehow. I mean, it shocks me to this day that we were able to get that far and win the state title that year in my second year. But to realize that it's not easy to get there, that it is a grind, and you need a little bit of luck, you need a little bit of talent, you need a little bit of team working together at the right time, at the right moment to make it all happen. I think that is something that is lost on a lot of people, especially a lot of my families early on. Like I said, we had early success, and we went there several times very early in my career, and I guess even myself a little bit thinking, it's not a big deal, and we go every other year. It's fun, exciting. This is what everybody should experience. And to know after you don't go for 10 years, 10 plus years, how difficult it is to do that. So to enjoy the moment, enjoy the ride, put in the work, put in everything that is needed for a team to be at that level and play at that level. It's hard, but you got to put in the time and put in the effort. So.
So, looking at your 2024 season, like I said, a lot of things happen throughout a season. Were there certain turning points or certain moments in the season where you felt like, hey, we got to get this figured out, or we just figured it out? Were there moments that stand out to you, certain games, certain practices, anything that happened that you're like, yep, we got a real chance at this thing?
Well, I don't know if there was an exact moment like during the season. I knew we had the ability. I mean, we had two pitchers coming back that were 4-year starters for me, so I knew they had the experience. They knew they had been in some big games and had experienced that, so I knew we were feeling good there. Offensively, we were still fairly young. There was a bunch of sophomores, now juniors, but they really came ready to play this year. This 2024 season, ready to hit. I mean, we were hitting the ball like crazy. And at that moment, you could kind of feel that you had the potential. But like I said, to the previous question, to know there's a lot of things that have to happen. There's a lot of things that got to go your way at the right times. And to be playing at your best at the end, sometimes it's difficult to keep that or maintain that consistency is hard. And I would be honest with you, it was probably towards the end of the season. We lost a conference game to Sauk Prairie, very quality team, but a team that most would say we're probably better than. I think was kind of a wake up call for us. I think it was at the right time towards the end where we're like, well, maybe we're not as good as we think we are in a lot of ways, and it was at that point, the following practice, where I saw it was like them digging a little deeper, them getting after it a little more, spending a little more attention to detail on certain things. I think that was the point where I'm like, okay, I think they get it. Now we just got to put it on the field, and hopefully it all works out, and we get a little luck along the way. And I had some success in our regionals. I played really well during our regionals. When we went to sectionals, played Reedsburg, another conference team that we had split with through during the year. Probably a very tough team, and we eked out a win. And at that point, I'm like, I think we could do it. And we were very fortunate then to kind of carry that on into state, and obviously played very well in state too. So I don't know if there was an exact moment, but just little inclinations of things that we needed to kind of fix, fine tune, along the way. I think the players started to get it as we got closer that this could be something special, and hopefully it was an opportunity for us to do some very special things.
Well, you obviously mentioned that the two arms you had coming back that had logged big innings, been in those situations. You feel good about coming into the season. So maybe talk about the group of guys. Is there a couple leaders that stand out? Are there a couple? Was it senior heavy? Maybe talk about the personnel a little bit too.
Well, that was the thing I think was very unique for us is we had, a mixture. We had 6 seniors. We had about 9, 10 juniors, and then we had 3 or 4 sophomores that were also in the mix. And again, I'm a big believer that everybody's a leader. So, we don't have captains. We don't specify that way. I want all my players to be ready to lead when their time comes or when they're asked to be a leader. Uh, and it was fun to watch them all kind of be in that role at some certain points of the season. Once in a while it was the seniors really grinding, knowing this is our last year. Let's get this focused in. And the juniors knowing that this is a great opportunity because we have a great team, we have great seniors. This could be the opportunity. And then sophomores, a lot of times just trying to find their way within our program of where they fit and what they need to do. But at the same time, being asked upon, we had a sophomore close out the state title game. A lot of programs may not be able to feel comfortable in that situation, but we had done that all through the year where we knew that they were capable of that and we knew he could get the job done. So it was all about different people at different times. Obviously our top 2 pitchers were probably the go-to guys. If I had to pick 2 that we could really say, hey, we need some good innings out of you. And then offensively, you do what you do. And, they were able to help in that department as well. And just made for a fun year to see, all of them kind of feed off each other at different times, take that leadership role to heart and really go forward with it and to help us. I mean, like I said, we were a team. We were not one player necessarily stands out. We had some guys that obviously had some good stats and had a good set of games right in a row. Bennett Cagle, our catcher. I mean, for a while there, I don't think anybody could get him out. He was hitting the ball all over the place and doing a great job behind the plate. But just little things, little guys here and there doing jobs, making big plays. All played a part. It really. I mean, I like I said, I can't pinpoint one guy that I said was the difference maker. They were all important in certain aspects, different times, and this is all the way through the state title game too. It wasn't just regular season; it was all the way through. So,
Well, I think that's one of the unique things about baseball, right? Is here's your lineup, and there's pitching rules, and you can't just draw up a play for your best player. You can't just hand the football off. Like you're gonna have contributions 1 through 9, and you're gonna have to go deep in your staff at different times, and you need your guys to be your guys, but also those quote role players still have to come and step up, and if you kind of look at your 2 postseason or your 2 state tournament games last year. It looks like you're trading run for run every inning. With KML, you're just an absolute grinder.
mm-hmm.
And then in the finals, like you said, you go down early. Like you're already on plan Z by the time you get a chance to be in the second inning. So maybe just go into some of those moments. And most importantly, like it's fun to live through it, obviously, but like as a leader, as a coach, like how do you stay consistent. I mean, I'm sure the dugout is just all over the place. You got 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that are in the biggest stage of their athletic environment. So just talk through some of those for us.
Yeah, well, no, for me, I mean, it's all about composure. I mean, I'm sure there are some umpires and maybe some times throughout the years when I maybe lost my composure a little bit towards maybe a bad call or maybe plays on the field. But for me, it's all about composure within your dugout. They look at me and they see a very, a lot of times very stoic and very, composed person because I know the situation. There's a lot more game to play. You speak. I mean, I'll go right to the Mosinee game. That was a game where, like you kind of alluded to, we're down 3-0 after the first three batters in the bottom of the first. So, what do? You could say, oh, good thing we made it here at least. Or we could say, hey, I know my team can do it. I know there's a lot of game left. I know what we're capable of. And we've been in situations like this. We've been in games where teams have scored runs on us. So how do we react and how do we move forward? And again, I think the composure of the players was key. Knowing that my starting pitcher, even though giving up 3 runs in the state title game in the first three batters, I knew he was capable of still going out and pitching a heck of a game. And he made it all the way into the bottom of the seventh. So he obviously settled down and got to work a little bit there. But all of our guys, even the Kettle Moraine game, I mean, like you said, back and forth. We'd go up by things 2-0. They come back, make it and tie it up. We go up 3-2, and then, just back and forth. And we played a lot of games like that, fortunately. And I think our players were able to pull from that, knowing that, hey, we're still in control. We know what we need to do. We know how we play. Let's just get after it, keep doing our thing, and good things will happen. So.
That's great. No, I appreciate that. And you win it. You have this against Mosinee. You have this crooked number, this inning that just keeps going on and going on. And what's going through your head as those last couple pitches are being thrown, and all this is coming to reality, and you get to watch your team celebrate.
Yeah.
What's going through your head at that time?
I'm just excited for the kids. I mean, like I said, they put in all the time and the effort and been dedicated to everything we wanted them to try to do or do. They did. So I was just happy. I mean, just to sit back and to be in a situation, and not every team gets to, be in that spot where you're up by several runs and you're to a spot where you're in pretty good shape. You never say never. You never say you're going to win or it's going to happen, but you got a good feeling that you're in very good position to win the game, and to sit back and watch all the players and how they're reacting to the first out and the second out in the seventh inning, and now you're just waiting for that last out, and everybody is on edge, and to watch the dugout, they're not in the game, but they're right there. They're feeling every pitch and every moment, along with the guys on the field. They're inching on top of that last pole because they want to climb over and they want to go celebrate. And just to see the excitement and the enjoyment in their eyes, and to see them actually be able to celebrate that with the dog pile. I mean, there's no greater feeling for a player as to be in a dog pile after you win the title. So to see them celebrate that and do that, I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's about helping them realize a dream and putting them in position to maybe accomplish that. As a coach, that's the happy points in your career, and the happy points in your job is when you get to celebrate and be a long part of that. So.
That's incredible. I could just feel the goosebumps as you're talking about that. And
Yeah.
you got the rings and the T-shirts and all the banquets and everything after, and is there ever a time where like it wears off? Or is there ever a time when you're like, well, now we got to completely pivot to 2025? Like, what's that process like?
Well, for me and my assistant coaches get on me all the time. I'm all I As soon as we're done, yeah, we go back and we're celebrating at the school, whatever. And the next day, I'm already texting them and say, hey, all right, so let's look at who's going to step up now as a pitcher. I'm always the wheels are always turning in my mind, and yeah, I'm still celebrating, and you still enjoy the moments, and the congratulations you get from other people. You're still appreciative of that. But for me, like I said, I was already grinding away. I mean, I sit here at my house here, and I got about 3 or 4 notebooks to my left here that immediately I'm already going to work on, okay, who can we move into this spot and how can we make this work? And, we lost this amount of this. Where do we find that? And so I'm already back to work and already back at it pretty close to right after. I did give myself a couple days this year with the family just to kind of sit back and enjoy it. But beyond that, it was right back to work. So.
That's incredible. Well, I mean, like you said, now you make that transition. The WBCA clinic's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I know you were just down at the ABCA clinic over in DC, and but I want to stay with WBCA a little bit. Like, what does WBCA mean to you? Like, what the experiences that you had?
Well, I've had nothing but great experience. I think they've done a great job of promoting the game of baseball in our state. Where we're able to play some of our games, state tournaments, I think is tremendous. And yeah, they've given me an opportunity. They've provided an opportunity for me as a coach to better myself routinely. I think our clinic that they run is one of the better ones. I haven't been to a lot of the state ones, but being to the national one several years, the national one's obviously above and beyond because it's a national one. You get a lot of college coaches, but the state one is well run here in Wisconsin, and I think they're a big part of that. And they want them. They make it a big deal because it's important to them. I think everybody that's a part of the WBCA, especially the administrative board, is passionate about the game of baseball and wants it to be the best it can be. And I think the game of baseball in Wisconsin has benefited from it. Now, if we'd only had a college team at the UW here, we'd be even further along. But I think the talent that we see, a lot of that has to do with the development and understanding we get with the help of the WBCA.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. I mean, it's been such a great advocates for the coaches and for administrators and obviously for the players and everything else. But,
Mm-hmm.
you talk about how you're a reader, you're a learner, you're a note taker, you're always back on working on something. So what are you working on this off season? And feel free to tie in anything you've been learned recently, at the ABCA, or maybe it's question anything you've done in the past or tried to refine. What are you working on this off season?
Yeah, well, this off season I spent a lot more time really diving more into our leadership training. I'm really trying to do a better job of how do I promote and how do I allow my athletes to become better leaders. So I spent a lot of time learning and developing that. And again, one thing I've always tried to be better at is just relationships with players. How do I get to know them even more than I already do? What parts of lives can I really work to get to know them a little more, and just my relationships with my players. I think I'm always developing that because let's be honest, the players are changing. Some get angry about the fact that kids are now different and they don't just do what you want them to do all the time. They have a lot of whys and why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? But that's all about development. And so I spend a lot of time trying to learn better ways to communicate that with them so we have a good relationship and that we're not fighting. We're trying to work together to be a better player and better athlete.
Well, it says a lot about your leadership style that you're willing to adjust as you go, right? I mean, you could very easily lay the resume out and say, hey, remember
Yep.
04 and 09 and 24 and all those other years we went there and, kind of kiss the rings, but you choose to go a different path. And
Mm-hmm.
that says a lot about your humility, your willingness to just, develop your kids and them maybe more than baseball players. And is that just how you're wired? Is that just, how you operate throughout the day? And as you think about putting a unit together?
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of that was developed, with how I had to grow up and how I went about things. I believe in players being, maximize life. I mean, uh, when I grew up, I was like I said, a football, basketball, baseball player. Whatever season was in, it was the most important time. Summers was time for recreation, where you really maybe mixed a little bit of all three of those, but you did other things. You really enjoyed life, and I think that's the biggest thing that sometimes gets lost. And a lot of these kids is, they're kids. They've got to experience things just because it may be important to you as a coach or you as an individual teacher. You got to find what they want to do too and what they appreciate in life. And so I'm trying to get them to understand and reflect on what's important and to find their own path. And like I said, a lot of times, like when we get together, it's yeah, we'll practice baseball, but we'll oftentimes do activities afterwards that have nothing to do with baseball. Just hanging out, like I said, the camaraderie is a big deal to us as well, and just finding something that they're interested in, that they're passionate about, and being appreciative. I mean, loving what you're doing, enjoying what you're doing goes a long way. So.
Well, I often think about this question, like when I have people on the show, and if you had 15 minutes, and you don't have to use all 15 minutes, but if you
Yeah.
had 15 minutes, the attention of the baseball community, what would kind of your TED talk be? Like, what do you think? You don't have to be so humble here. Like, what do you think you're really good at? And I think I know my answer, spending 45 minutes with you, but like, where do you think you have found your niche in this high school coaching market?
That's a good question. You know, mine is getting to understand players, getting them to understand the team mentality. I mean, I think that is kind of my staple. I mean, I jokingly say that I don't know anything about the mechanics. I don't know anything about the what cause the launch angle stuff. We're not going to talk a lot about that kind of stuff. But if you want to talk about what it takes to be a good teammate, what it takes to be part of a team, part of our family. I mean, we can talk all day on those types of things, and we can do things that can help you understand the benefits of that. And I think that's where, one thing that I've really just been passionate about, and I really think I spend a lot of time on, is just trying to develop them within a team mentality, doing what's best for the team, no individuals, kind of a unselfish attitude. I think goes a long way, and that's what I want them to understand, that you can be appreciative of a lot of things, and a lot of things go on that you don't give the right amount of appreciation to. You should do that. You should make sure you notice it. You give mention to those that do it, and I think that is something I've tried to preach in my players over the years, instill in them. Along with a good competitiveness. I'm a pretty competitive person too, so we compete at everything, and do it in a fun and an exciting manner. So.
Well, you mentioned again that you're watching videos. Are you reading anything right now? Are you listen to a consistent podcast? Like what's scratching your educational itch right now?
Actually, it was a book. I think it's by John Gordon. I maybe messed up the name there, but it's a book I actually got at the ABCA convention. It's about being kind of a selfless learner type guy, a person that wants to continue to learn and achieve, and there's no end to the limits of one's ability to be the very best it can be. It's kind of a book I've started reading just recently. But yeah, I'm always reading something. I'm always picking up something. I get I think it's called College Insider, a little magazine I get once a month. I love that because it's a lot of insight about little tidbits and little things like that. Those are the types of little things I like, as well as learning a little bit about people's drills that they run and things like that. So I can enhance my practices a little bit. But those are the types of things I look into.
Well, what stands out to me, just in talking with you, like they ask about what ABCA, what are you working on? And like I think a lot of guys go right to the drills, the
Hmm.
pitching drills, the infield drills, and that stuff's out there, and it's
Yep.
obviously important, and you got to know your content, and you can go on a variety of places and find it. But your first responses were, this talk from John Gordon, this leadership training, pouring into the guys, development,
Yep.
best version of themselves. That just means a lot. But I got one more question for you.
Okay.
Okay. And speaking of ABCA, right? Brian Kane, everybody knows Kaner,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Brian Kane used to ask this question on his podcast. He used to call it the $1 million question. And he says, Coach, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you got started? And this is where I cut the mic and you just roll us out, my man.
Well, and again, it kind of comes back to the player relationship. You know, I wish I knew back when I first started how much of a difference you make in the players' lives that you come across. Because I probably would have spilled more and got it more into my kids at an earlier time frame. And not that I was never not passionate about them and cared about them, but nowadays I'm all in. I mean, I'm all about making that the best experience of their lives, or at least try to. And I wish I had known that how much of a difference, because obviously you don't know a lot of their experiences until they come back and see you, over the years. And, obviously now me being in the 20s and year 22 and 23, I'm starting to get some of those fellow or past athletes come back, and they've got families now, and to see how much they appreciate what you did for them and maybe what you helped them develop, made them better in this, and they're a better dad because they do this with their kid now, and they really learned it from being in our program. Those are the big deals. That's the big reason that I love what I'm doing. I just actually on my way to do this interview driving home, got a call from a fellow player, a past player of mine that just got the head job at Lake Geneva Badger, and just having him go back, Coach, I want you to go over this with me because I know you used to do it with us. And I want to incorporate it, and I want to make it part of our program. And just to see the love that he had for what we did, and now he wants to make it part of what he does in his program now. That's the big deal, and that's what I love. And I'm looking forward to touching base with him more and seeing more of my athletes. And yeah, today's athlete, I'm all in. I'm all about everything they do and trying to make this the best experience they possibly can have. And hopefully, God willing, maybe we'll make it back to state here in the near future, and more players can experience that. Because if I had one gift I could give to every player in the state of Wisconsin, it would be to have at least one game played at the state tournament, because it is something special. It's something unique. It's something you can't explain until you experience it, and it's something that they'll never forget. So I wish everybody could do it. I know that's not possible, but that would be my wish for everybody.
And there it is. Huge thank you goes out to Coach Newt for hopping on with us. Love hearing his story, his journey through coaching, his playing days, obviously his coaching days, and hearing about. He's got a few gold balls now, all right, and many trips to Appleton, a tremendous amount of success, and had success early, and learned a bunch of lessons along the way, and go through that process where you think you got it figured out, and then the more you learn, the less kind of mentality, and I just love that. And again, if you're listening to this, you're a learner. That's why you're tuning into these things, because you think this is important. You're always finding ways to get better. Well, on top of the drills and dropping the cages and some new, everybody loves a good infield drill, especially indoors in Wisconsin. Listen to Coach Newt talk about his players. Listen to him talk about leadership and pouring into his guys. And man, you want your kid to play for a guy like this, right? Just leading men, educator, just love the way he goes about things. And speaking of learning, Friday, February 14th, leading off our state convention in Madison, the WBCA annual convention, is Coach Newt. We got a panel of championship coaches from 2024. Go listen, go say hi, introduce yourself, tell them how much you like listening to the episode. And and again, thank you for tuning in. We'll keep rolling out more episodes as we start looking down, the start of the high school baseball season here in Wisconsin. And have a good rest of your day.